Hello, dear friends. To be a conspiracy theorist is to spend endless hours for years gathering as much information as possible and thinking critically about what that information means, and then to be told you are crazy by people who do nothing but watch television. Opinion piece. Financial awakening. Economic sovereignty. Reality is an agreement. The crisis forces us to be informed. A healthy economy is not easy. Thought creates reality. Our freedom comes from God. Venezuela offers oil to Europe. Oil prices stabilize the rouble. Shipping is upside down. The oil market is in the balance. Spain opposes European gas-saving plans. Let's start. I never had a vocation as an economist, but before I entered university, the psychological tests told me that I was qualified to study economics, but I preferred to study journalism because it was my vocation. Now, the economic crisis forces us all to be good managers in order to survive, just as restrictions and confinements forced us to study our rights in order to defend ourselves. How many months could you live without income? Have you ever wondered what would happen to you if you couldn't work for a few months? Most people live from day to day, spend everything they earn each month, and save nothing. The result is called financial precariousness. But not everyone has the ability to save. According to Steve Biko, it pays to have cash in small denominations in preparation for currency revaluation. Don't go to sleep on financial market matters and only wake up on the day of the big change that would shake us all. Putin officially declared a global financial restart as opposed to the Great Davos Forum restart, so the issue is already public. It is likely that the economic system will collapse and restart will be declared country by country, which would cause an earthquake in the lives of all of us. Reflections. In quotes, our civil liberties are God-given. Evil cannot change its nature, only its king, says singer-songwriter and human rights activist James H. White, who lives in Mount Hope, New York. Spirituality should be incorporated into the care of both serious illness and general health, according to a study led by researchers at Harvard University's T.H. Chan School of Public Health and Brigham and Women's Hospital in the U.S., according to the journal JAMA. Reality is an agreement. If we create our own reality, then it is obvious that the dark side knows and has always known long before ordinary people. We have been relatively in the dark about this knowledge until the movie The Secret came out a few years ago. Its release indicated that the powers that were in control of the future timeline due to population control. Groupthink is creating the world's reality. The controllers created the endless plethora of religions scattered throughout the world to keep us all divided and fighting over which beliefs are right and condemn the others. When will people finally wake up to the fact that the Creator didn't create a religion? Religion was created by humankind for the sole purpose of controlling the population. You cannot control the minds of free-thinking people who are united. You have to divide them in order to control them. Divide and conquer. The controllers appear to be geniuses, but in reality they are the lowest forms of life. On a tightrope. Nord Stream reopening gives European Union gas stocks a breather. Russian gas flows through the Nord Stream 1 pipeline will restart on time on Thursday 21st after scheduled maintenance was completed. European authorities remain cautious about a total shutdown. The oil market is in the doldrums. Major oil-producing countries are pumping crude at maximum capacity, have no way of producing more in the short term after 2 years with little investment in the sector, while inventories are at record lows. There are only 2 countries with the capacity to produce more oil, Saudi Arabia and the Emirates. Whether they will want to quench the world's thirst for oil is another question. Saudi Arabia will build the world's largest smart city. Shipping is upside down. Ships anchored in the middle of the sea and containers piled up in ports. On 13th July, there were ships carrying approximately 460,000 and 180,000 containers waiting to dock at the US docks. Supply crisis. FAO warns that the plague of 21 million birds is devastating Tanzania's crops. The United Nations says a food crisis can be abated if fertilizers and food from Russia and Ukraine are allowed on world markets. Russia sets a new daily record for natural gas supplies to China. The last remaining oil refinery in South Africa is being shut down. This means no aviation fuel and no diesel. They are currently using diesel to keep the lights on, but this means that the switch is very close. It is rare to find anyone at all who has not yet witnessed, heard or directly experienced the devastating consequences of the supposed leadership that the experts have unleashed on us in recent years. They have engineered and mismanaged crisis after crisis. All over the world, from California to Sri Lanka, people everywhere are suffering from their incompetence. But the good news is that their reign of ineptitude is rapidly coming to an end. That much is obvious. And even better, there are many solutions and technologies on the horizon that could make it all go away relatively quickly as soon as they are out of the way. Western Europe is on the brink of a major energy crisis. Germany, the world's 4th largest economy, is dimming its street lights and thinking about turning on its coal-fired power plants because they are running out of power. Even in Texas, arguably the world's 10th largest economy by GDP, the independent power grid is so fragile that power companies are remotely turning down people's home thermostats to save on energy supplies. Accidents. Possible explosion reported at Hoover Dam. Large fire breaks out in London and spreads to a residential area in Wellington. Fire in Wellington near London on the hottest day in the UK. Meteorite impact leaves irreparable damage to the mirror of the Webb telescope. thwarted attack on nuclear plant. A disorganized attack was launched last week on a nuclear dismantling plant in Texas territory, but was repelled by white hats protecting the facility, according to sources in General Berger's office. A strange accident. Several Marines on a secret mission to arrest a prominent lawmaker were tragically killed last Wednesday when their Osprey plane fell out of the sky and exploded in a fireball. The White Hats believe the crash was sabotage. Donald Trump has avoided public mention of foul play regarding the death of his ex-wife, Ivana, but Mar-a-Lago sources called the circumstances surrounding her untimely death highly suspicious. This has come after Trump revealed his plan to run for re-election as president. Ivana Trump has had a master's degree in physical education, was a world-class skier and a member of the Czechoslovak nation ski team. Martial law bill submitted to the U.S. Congress for the suppression of uprisings. The enemy is turning up the heat, and we must be ready for battle. Attack by negative criticism cannot prevent the truth from being exposed. Spain. Large Spanish industry opposes the European gas-saving plan. Forcing shutdowns would lead to shortages of essential products. Banco Sabadell is the worst hit on the stock market. Fires in Spain burned 25,000 hectares in a week. The intensity of some fires decreases. In the province of Zamora, residents of 20 of the 34 villages evacuated return home. The gastronomy of Spain, Mexico, and Peru stands out among the 50 best restaurants in the world. Americas. Chavism offers Venezuelan oil to Europe for an advance payment. The Argentinian president launches a works plan as a driving force in difficult times. Very heavy rains are expected in Mexico in the Pacific states. Greenpeace protests against the restart of Tren Maya construction works in Mexico. Chile tells U.S. investors about foreign exchange intervention and tax plans. A pot of 80 dolphins puts on a unique show in the Bay of Valparaiso, Chile. Protests paralyze Panama after failed negotiations. Bolsonaro raises his distrust of the electronic ballot box to some 40 ambassadors. Europe. The IMF warns of devastating effects for half of Europe if Russia blocks gas. Brussels presents its savings plan in case Russia cuts off gas this winter. Azerbaijan will double gas supplies to the European Union by 2027 as it seeks alternatives to Russia. The European Union signs a deal with Azerbaijan to double gas supplies by 2027. Egypt agrees to collaborate with Germany in its goal of not being dependent on Russian gas. The ECB will discuss an interest rate hike of 0.5 percentage point. Europe opens in positive territory except for an Italian stock market dragged down by Draghi's resignation. Italy and Algeria sign 15 cooperation agreements in various fields. Italy suffers 15 major fires from north to south. The pine forest of the Landes in the Gironde region of France burns. The European Union opens the door to Albania and North Macedonia. Albania begins negotiations for accession to accession to the European Union. Controversy over charging €19 to see the spectacular Lake Como in Switzerland. The UK has a big problem because its infrastructure can't cope with the heat. British MPs question the deportation of migrants to Rwanda. Ukraine. The European Union agrees on an extra €500 million for Ukraine. Marines operate HIMARS missiles in Ukraine. Russian Defense Minister orders attack on Ukrainian long-range artillery. Russia claims to have destroyed a stockpile of weapons and ammunition delivered to Ukraine by the US and European countries. Ukraine is the most dangerous country in the world for journalism, according to UNESCO. Russia issues an arrest warrant for Ukrainian journalist Dmitry Gordon. Germany accused of hosting Ukrainian refugees in a Nazi camp. Ukrainian refugees were invited to live in a temporary hotel inside the former Nazi concentration camp Sachsenhausen near Berlin. Russia anticipated its economic isolation. High oil prices stabilized the rouble. Putin set up an economic defense line and raised preparation for the coming of this moment. The country is adapting to the economic isolation better than expected. HoloLand. Thora contactee discusses HoloEarth with Dr. Tom Cole by Mark Bogman. Every day, the time draws nearer when HoloEarth beings will arrive on the surface of the planet. These civilizations are in 4D to 6D. Therefore, they may have a coincidence close enough to reach the surface. There will come the full knowledge of all the evil of the past. All will be exposed. We are very close to inventors not being afraid of governments to stop their new technology. The threats will stop and they will not be able to carry them out. All free energy ideas have to hide from the government. The downfall of the current financial system may be slight and temporary. Thora stressed that the price of gas and oil will skyrocket and it will be outrageous. He said that Mother Earth is stopping oil from being pumped out of her body, and she is no longer allowing oil wells to drain her, because she has had enough abuse. Some wells have already been shut down in Africa and Saudi Arabia. The guzzlers will have to convert to hydrogen fuel. The price of oil and gas will rise because supply will disappear. Converting to electric and hydrogen will lead to zero-point energy, or what the galactics call electromagnetic energy. All oil wells will stop producing and stop pumping. It is impossible that combustion engines can be converted to hydrogen engines that do not pollute because they only produce water vapor, but the authorities do not want this solution because it would be very simple and cheap, and the electric car has become a big business with polluting lithium batteries. Ufology. Confessions of an anonymous spy. The existence of UFOs really lowers the status of the world's religious and scientific leaders. They resisted such a lowering of their status, particularly their scientific status. The UFO has an energy source which is obviously related to gravity and the electromagnetic properties of physics. All of that is packed into a small space and affects the world around it. Add to that some cloaking device, and you have a craft which will emit some radiation. If dogs can detect UFOs, then use dogs, which they did at some military and scientific bases in the early days. If it vibrates the TV when one passes by, start from there to make a detection device. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.